You can't handle more. That's what he said, with that quiet smirk that somehow felt louder than words. I still remember the exact moment. The office lights were too bright, the air felt stiff, and everyone around the conference table suddenly went silent, like they were waiting for me to react, waiting to see if I would shrink or break. I didn't. But inside, something cracked. My name is Aisha, and back then, I was the only woman in a team that never really believed I belonged. I worked harder than anyone. Long nights, skipped dinners, endless revisions, just to be seen as equal. But to him, I was never enough. His name was Farhan, my manager. Calm, confident, and always in control. The kind of man people admired without questioning. He knew how to speak, how to lead, how to win people over, and how to quietly tear someone down. At first, it was subtle. You might want to double-check this. This might be a bit too complex for you. Let someone else handle the heavy part. Small comments, polite tone, but each one chipped away at me. I told myself I was overthinking. Until that meeting, we were discussing a major project, one I had secretly spent weeks preparing for. I had ideas, strategies, solutions, things I knew could change everything. So, I spoke up. My voice was steady, even though my hands trembled under the table. I explained my plan, step by step. For a moment, no one said anything, and then he leaned back in his chair, crossed his arms, and smiled. You can't handle more, he said casually. Let's not overwhelm you. A few people chuckled, others looked away, and just like that, my effort disappeared. But what I didn't know that day was that this moment wouldn't break me. It would build something inside me he never saw coming. After that meeting, something changed in me. The conference room was full. Senior executives, department heads, people whose opinions shaped careers. Farhan stood confidently at the front, ready to present. I sat quietly in the corner, just like always. He began speaking, smooth, polished, convincing, slide after slide. My ideas, my words, my work. And for a moment, I felt that old feeling again, that familiar sting of being invisible. But then, he reached the part he didn't fully understand, the deeper strategy. The details he had skimmed over. He paused, just slightly. But I noticed. Questions started coming from the executives, sharp ones, specific ones, and his answers weren't enough. The room shifted. That quiet confidence he carried began to crack. Then, one of the senior leaders turned, not to him, but to me. Aisha, she said, you worked on this too, right? The room went still. Farhan's expression changed. And in that moment, I had a choice, stay silent or finally speak. I stood up. My heart was racing, but my voice, steady, yes, I said. And then, I walked to the front. I didn't rush. I didn't hesitate. I simply took my place, and I explained everything clearly, calmly, confidently, every detail, every strategy, every decision, because this time, I wasn't trying to prove myself. I was just telling the truth. When I finished, the room was silent. Not the uncomfortable kind, the powerful kind, the kind that meant they finally saw me. Farhan didn't say a word. He didn't have to, because the truth had already spoken. That day, everything changed. Not with shouting, not with revenge in the way people expect, but with something stronger. Exposure, recognition, respect. Later, as I packed my things, I thought about his words again. You can't handle more. I smiled, because he was right. In a way, I couldn't handle being underestimated anymore, so I didn't. I rose above it, and sometimes, the strongest revenge isn't breaking someone down. It's quietly proving they were wrong about you all along. I stopped trying to prove myself out loud Instead, I started watching, observing, listening, because the truth was, Farhan wasn't just dismissing me. He was controlling everything. Who got credit, who got opportunities, who stayed invisible, and I wasn't the only one affected. I began noticing patterns. Ideas presented by others would somehow reappear. In his words, credit shifted quietly, recognition redirected, and no one questioned it because he delivered results, or at least, that's what everyone believed. One evening, while everyone had left, I stayed back pretending to finish work, but really, I was going through old project files. That's when I saw it, my work, reused, slightly edited, presented under his name, not once, not twice, multiple times. My chest tightened. My hands went cold. It wasn't just doubt anymore. It was betrayal. I wanted to confront him. I wanted answers. But something inside me whispered, wait, so I did. Instead of reacting, I started collecting emails, drafts, timestamps, proof, every late night I had worked, every document I had created. I kept records of everything, quietly, carefully, and then came the biggest opportunity of the year. A high-stakes presentation in front of senior leadership. Farhan announced he would lead it. Of course, but this time, something was different because the core of that project. It was mine, my ideas, my strategy, my work, and he had no idea how much I had prepared. The night before the presentation, he stopped by my desk. You've done enough, he said casually. I'll take it from here. I looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time. I wasn't intimidated. I just nodded. Of course, I said softly. But inside, I knew, tomorrow, everything would change.